Gotta grow up, gotta get up to spiritual maturity. Cannot linger, no stick figure, that is my priority. Gotta listen to the ones with the high authority. It's the fivefold, yeah, the fivefold to get me where I need to be. Yeah.
Pleasant Sunday afternoon to everyone. Thank you for tuning in and joining me on the Teach Me to Obey radio broadcast. I am your host, Anita Lewis, and once again, I am really excited and pleased and honored and privileged to be here with you. I have here with me Kriston Aymer, a level 3 student at Kingdom Academy. You have been hearing from Kriston now for weeks now, maybe about 2 months or more, that he has been here with me on the program. I do not have Adina with us today. It's just Kriston and myself. And as usual, it will not be any less. It will be an awesome broadcast, an awesome time of teaching and sharing that you will be in for today. Kriston, welcome to Teach Me to Obey radio broadcast.
Thank you very much for such a wonderful welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here and just looking forward to having a wonderful, wonderful time this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Kriston. Now you, our listeners, you would have heard Kriston speak and share and brought such enlightenment and such truth and such understanding, such revelation to the fivefold leadership team that we have been discussing now for weeks. But today, Kriston is here on the witness stand. He's here to share his experience with us as we discuss this further, the fivefold governmental leadership team, or we can call them the service team, because in previous broadcasts, we would have noted that the fivefold leaders, that they are servant leaders. They serve believers. It's not just that they have arrived and they're there just looking down or doing nothing. No, their responsibility is to serve the believers. So Kriston is here this afternoon with us, and he is going to be sharing his experience with us. Now, we have been looking at the function of the fivefold leadership team. We have been looking at them, and we, according to Ephesians 4:11 and 12, their responsibilities as the leaders, one is to grow up the believers to spiritual maturity, and two, to equip them for their work of ministry, what it is that they are called to do. This is a very serious responsibility. These leaders, their responsibility is very serious, and it is not something to play around with. And so Kriston is here today, and he is going to be answering a question. He is going to be telling us how has these ministers impacted him in growing him to a place of where he's at right now. Now, we have spoken before of the different stages spiritually, and Kriston is no longer at the spiritual baby stage. Neither is he at the spiritual childhood stage. Kriston is now at the spiritual teen stage. So Kriston is going to share with us how the apostle has helped to bring him to this place of the spiritual teen, how the apostle has helped in growing him to this place and equipping him for his work of the ministry. So Kriston, share with us, please.
Thank you very much again. I can definitely say that having the fivefold apostle in my life functioning has really been like a game changer for me. You know, in terms of bringing order, in terms of bringing structure to my life, I would say that the fivefold apostle would have provided an environment that would have been conducive for my growth. From that spiritual baby place, they would have, I would say spiritually parented me, taking that time out to make sure that I would say my foundations were solid, making sure that I was in an environment where I was safe, from the vultures, that the enemy would have sent, and even save me from myself a lot of times. So they really brought governance to my life, structure to my life as a believer from that young baby stage, coming through to the childhood stage, they would have been there with me at every stage, because, how it has been for me really helped providing that environment. The fivefold apostle really has spent that time to make sure that I would have been around other individuals who, were like-minded, other individuals who had the gifts necessary for me to grow up. And they spared no expense, because the apostle is the one that really governs us
Yes,
as believers.
as
They
believers.
really govern us, and governance speaks of structure,
Yes.
of order. So I would say that that's the main thing that the apostle brought to my life.
That's it.
Order. That's what I would, say that they really contributed more so to my life and my growth.
Okay, thank you very much, Kriston. So we're discussing individually how these fivefold leaders, how these fivefold servants have helped Kriston. He's speaking from his own experience, how they have helped to bring him to where he's at the spiritual teenage stage, and how they have helped to equip him for his work of the ministry. Now we're talking about the fivefold team, and unfortunately, we can only be honest, because then, we know that generally on this island, we do not have the full fivefold ministry team, servant team, available to believers. And the church structure as it is, the church system as it is, without the full fivefold team, is not working for believers. That is the truth. Because based on Jesus' blueprint found in Ephesians 4:11 and 12, no born-again believer should be left to grow themselves up or equip themselves for ministry. We continue to say, you're going to hear us saying it all the time, as it is in the natural, so it is in the spiritual. So we are speaking about the fact that no born-again believer, you're born again, you're a newborn. You cannot leave a newborn baby in the natural. You do not leave a newborn baby by himself or by herself. Absolutely not. The social services, the police, they will come for you, because a baby cannot manage on his own. They can't even feed themselves. So as it is in the natural, so it is in the spiritual. So Kriston is giving his experience, because as believers, we start off in the baby stage, the spiritual baby stage, then we grow to spiritual childhood, then spiritual teenager, and then come to the place of spiritual maturity where we're spiritual adults. So Kriston would have spoken just now about how the apostle would have brought him order in his life, bringing governance in his life as a spiritual baby, bringing him to where he is now at, because he's not yet fully grown. He's not yet reached the place of spiritual maturity. He is now a spiritual teenager. So he's giving his experience through the different stages, from the baby stage to the spiritual teenage stage. So Kriston, we're continuing now. Share with those who are listening, and there are people who are listening who want what it is that you have. We continue to share about. There are people who are crying out for the more. There are many who continue to listen to this program, and they want more than what it is that they're getting, and they should have more, because Jesus' blueprint, that is what it's about. Saying straight out in no uncertain terms that believers should have these leaders in order to bring them to a place. And it is important for the present leaders of assemblies to look to see how they can bring on board the other offices that are missing, so that the believers in the congregation can be adequately serviced and ministered to, that they can receive the services from the other offices, from the other fivefold ministers, because most of what exists in the present assemblies on this island, we have one-fold. And according to scripture, it should be five. Yeah. So the present leaders, they have a responsibility to bring on board the other officers that are missing to benefit the believers, so that they can grow to a place of spiritual maturity, so that they can be trained and equipped for their work of the ministry. Now, Kriston, we are continuing. So share with us how the prophet has helped you in growing you to this place and equipping you for your work of the ministry. We are now talking about the apostle. We have noted before, but I'm going to say this for the benefit of someone who's listening for the first time today, that the fivefold leadership team consists of the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor or shepherd, and the teacher. So we're going through each of them so that Kriston can share his experience and how these servant leaders, how they have individually benefited him to bring him to the place of the spiritual teen and equipping him for his work of the ministry.
Thank you very much. This individual would be one of my, I would say, favorite individuals because I myself would have a prophetic gift, and I can definitely say that the prophet has benefited my life in such a way that I have a direct path to my destiny. Mm-hmm. The prophet would have seen things within me that I myself would not have seen. And without the prophet being there, without the prophet functioning in my life, I would have never known that these things, that I would even be capable of certain things, that I would even have certain gifts within me. And the prophet really brought like that pointy finger, guiding me, saying, this is the way to go. This is the way you need to walk. Secret things that I did not know I had. I received deliverance. I mean, the prophet is a game changer in the life of a believer because there are going to be things, especially at that childhood and that baby and childhood stage and even the teen stage. There are things that you're just not going to be able to see. Mm-hmm. And that mature fivefold prophet would be able to see these things. Maybe it's something concerning your calling that you have not even seen as yet, that you don't know as yet. I remember for myself, just talking about experiences. Even before I became a believer, I had this ability sometimes, I would say, to have premonitions. At the time, that's why I knew it as premonitions. I would see these things happening, and I would say, déjà vu. But then it got to the point where it became like real to me, and I was so afraid of this gift, of this thing. I didn't even know it was a gift. For me, it was a curse because I used to be afraid that I saw myself die. And at some point, giving my life to Christ, being introduced to that prophet, and that prophet explaining to me, this is what it is. This is what it is. There's no reason to fear. Yeah. And from that day on, I have been given guidance, concerning my gift, given instruction, again by another prophet. This is where I just want to mention and say to people out there that sometimes you would have these gifts and you don't have anybody to mentor you or tutor you or teach you about it. And I think this is another role that these fivefold ministers play in the lives of believers. Because if you have a gift and you have no one to teach you how to use it, I mean, come on, it's not going to be very useful.
Goes to waste.
So I can say for sure that the fivefold prophet has helped me to grow up in my gift, has given me, a place where I can practice, where I can learn, where I can be educated. And then eventually, as time, went on, my gift grew stronger, more accurate, and more effective. And, to the place where I'm at now. And I'm in a training season now, again, because of the fivefold prophet being there. So they're a game changer. They help us to guide the believers to what God himself wants them to do and become. They're not just there for show. It's not just a name. They have a function, and their function is definitely to guide. And I can say I have been guided, and I've been guided well.
Okay, thank you very much, Kriston. We know that the apostles, they also call the eyes of the body. They have been graced spiritually to see where the average believer does not see. As Kriston would have mentioned, the prophets, they're able to see your giftings, what it is that you are called to do. All believers are called to work. There's a song that says, everybody must work. Yeah, we are all called to work as believers. There's no believer who should be idly sitting down in a congregation just doing nothing. No, we are all called to do some measure of work. And the prophets, they see, they guide. We would have noted the 5G network where we say the apostles govern, the prophets guide, the evangelists gather, the pastors or teacher, they guard, and the teachers, they ground. And so the prophets, we say, they guide, they see. If somebody is guiding you, they're taking you someplace. They're seeing where you don't know, where you cannot see. You go to a foreign country and you have a tour guide because this place is unknown to you. So you need someone who is familiar with this place to guide you around. Someone is blind and they have a dog who guides them, or a stick who guides them, because they cannot see. So likewise, as it is in the natural, so it is in the spiritual, that the prophets are the ones who have the eyes to see, and they're able to see what it is that God has gifted you with. So every believer needs a prophet in their life to show them, to see what it is that they are called to do. And Kriston has mentioned that, he says he leans more towards the prophet. He's biased, of course, because his gift is that of the prophetic. So he leans more to that in the fivefold leadership team. And he's spoken of how the prophet has literally just guided him and shown him what it is that he's supposed to do. And he's receiving training and teaching. He's being equipped for his work of the ministry, and his gift is developing and growing stronger. And I can attest to that personally from experience, because I have received prophetic words from Kriston that he has spoken, and seeing them literally come to pass. So I can attest to this spiritual gift in his life, where he sees beyond the physical. He sees, God shows him, he has been graced to see. He has the prophetic eyes. So that is, his experience. He's on the witness stand as he shares with us how the fivefold leadership or service team has benefited him, has helped him to grow to the place of spiritual teenage stage, and where he is being equipped for his work of the ministry. So he has shared on the fivefold apostle, and he's shared on the fivefold prophet. Now, Kriston, share with us on the fivefold evangelist, the one who gathers. Share with us how this gift has helped in growing you up and equipping you for your work of the ministry.
Well, I just want to even say, before even growing up, the evangelist played a major role in even gathering me from, outside, as an unbeliever. And I recall, it was over the phone. It wasn't even in person. And that person was so, soul-minded that they didn't waste the opportunity to invite me, and, how it would have spent that time to, evangelize me then. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm here today. So we were speaking a few Sundays ago about the evangelist and the twofold, responsibility that they carry. And that, so I can say that's one of the folds for me.
Yes.
They evangelized me.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that I'm here, they are keeping me accountable to do the same. Where I am soul-minded, where my focus should always be on who can I reach, how can I reach them. And they would have kept me fired up to always be reaching out and sharing the gospel and making sure that I am always talking to somebody about Christ, using all the opportunities that I get. So they play a major role in keeping me fired up for Christ, fired up for souls, and that's just the role that they play in my life at this time. And they give me opportunities too, as well. Again, this is what the fivefold ministers would do. They give you opportunities to practice, to actually do the things that, they function in. Yeah.
Thank you. So last week and the previous week, we spoke about the dual role of the evangelist, and we would have shared that the evangelists, they keep the believers. Their dual role is one for the believer and the other for the unbeliever. So Kriston has shared about how it has benefited him personally, because the evangelist literally, came about and won him over to Christ, called him, because the evangelists play a role to win souls, for the unbeliever, win their soul to Christ. And as a believer, then when you come in, the evangelists, they keep you fired up so that you can go now and win souls. So he has benefited. He has had both roles being played out. He has experienced both roles in his life. He didn't just come in and come to warm the bench or say, I am prophetic, so that is all I'm supposed to be concerned about. No, he also has a passion for soul, and the evangelist would have helped to light that fire under him and keep the flame going, so he's always looking about to win souls. Kriston, we're on to the next office in the fivefold leadership team. We're on to the pastor or shepherd, the one who guards. We're on to this one now, and we want you to share how the pastor or shepherd has helped you in growing up and equipping you for your work of the ministry.
Thank you. The shepherd has a very important role in my life, because a lot of times the shepherd is the one that I would go to for counseling, for when I have issues that are troubling my heart and troubling my mind. I go to the shepherd. The shepherd spends the time to take care of me. They have a nurturing heart, I would say. So for me, it's like the love and the tender care is, the prophet can be sharp and the apostle can be stern, but the shepherd has this way to ease your mind and ease your soul and, just take care of you and lead you beside still waters, as, the scripture would say. And for me, it's invaluable. The fivefold shepherd is invaluable in a believer's life and in the rightful function, because I would say they came into like the secret components of my life, the thing that many other people would not see or know. And I felt comfortable to share a lot of my, I would say, secrets. I shared with my shepherd, things that I felt maybe ashamed about and that type of thing. My shepherd spent the time to listen, to encourage. I felt no condemnation.
I was just about to say, I want to interject here to ask you, if you've ever felt condemnation, from your shepherd. I was just about to ask you that question.
No condemnation, no judgment. I felt no fear in being open. I felt no fear in sharing anything with my shepherd, because I understood, I knew, again, this is where knowledge is power. I understood their role in my life, and I was able to receive freedom. I was able to come out stronger because my shepherd has been there for me. And I'm a human being, and the shepherd a lot of times would deal with, like the human part of us, the soft and tender parts of our lives. I'm not saying that they don't get sharp and they're not stern. I wouldn't say that, because, in guiding sheep, sometimes you need to be stern. But I would say they spent that time to take care of me. They really spent time, and I could say times, hours, years, taking care of me, making sure that, I stayed this path until I'm able to get to the point that I am now, and be strong and be solid. So these things that I would have been dealing with, the shepherd stayed with me until I overcame. And I can say still stays with me in the things that I still need to overcome. And they just spend that valuable time and effort with me. Yeah.
Wow, I am feeling so tender right now, I guess because I am a shepherd, and it's like you're speaking about my heart, because the scripture says that God himself has given his people shepherds after his own heart. And we know that shepherd, they have the Father's heart, the heart of love, the heart to care for, the heart that just wants the best for the individuals. And my goodness, you spoke about the fact that you're not left alone, and you have a burden bearer with your shepherd. The shepherd is the one who bears your burden. Psalm 23 says that though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil whatsoever, because the shepherd is present, please, with him. So thank you very much for sharing about how the shepherd or pastor has literally been guarding you and been there with you and for you in life situations. Thank you very much. Now we're on to the last one of the service team, the fivefold governmental leadership team. And last does not by any means mean the least. We're on to the teacher, the one who grounds believers in their words. Kindly share with us how the teacher has helped you to grow to the spiritual teenage stage, and how it is that the teacher is equipping you for your work of the ministry.
Well, the teacher has really been a grounder for me. really been grounding me and keeping me solid in the word and making sure that I'm not knocked to and fro by every wind of doctrine that comes along. They make sure that I stay focused on what I'm learning, what I'm taking in is directly from the word of God, and that I'm not straying. I would say that's the main role that the teacher would play, making sure that I don't have a lack of knowledge so I'm not destroyed.
Yes.
So I would say that's what it's been for me. And the teacher just keeps that trend going all the way up in growth. Yes.
Thank you very much. There you have it. You have Kriston's experience. You have Kriston's take on how the fivefold, I'm calling them the service team, because they have been servicing him and continue to serve him because he's not yet reached the place of spiritual maturity. So the service team has such a serious responsibility in the life of the believers. He has mentioned how each of these, the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor or shepherd, and the teacher, how each of them has helped him in growing him to where he is right now, and how they are equipping him for his work of the ministry. Believers, those who are listening, I want to encourage you that as a believer, you cannot come to a place of spiritual maturity by yourself. You need the presence of the fivefold governmental leadership team. You need these servant leaders in your life, according to Jesus' blueprint found in Ephesians 4:11 and 12. The majority of believers, they come in and they stay at the baby stage, or some of them stay, some of them backslide because of the absence of the fivefold fleet, because all of them are not present in an assembly. And many of them, they even get stuck at one place and they go no further because the fivefold is absent. We continue each week to encourage you to pray and ask God to send you your servant leaders. You have heard Kriston's experience. You've heard him share. I'm sure, and I do hope, that you are there and you are wanting that for yourself as well, saying, I want my fivefold leadership team. I want my servant leaders. I need these people to service me. I need the apostle to govern me. I need the prophet to guide me. I need the evangelist to get me fired up to really win souls for Christ, to the gatherer. I need the pastor or shepherd to guard me. I need the teacher to ground me in the work. Thank you very much for listening to today's broadcast on Teach Me to Obey. I am your host, Anita Punchi-Lewis, and with me today was Kriston Aymer, a level 3 student at Kingdom Academy, who is at the spiritual teenage stage, and he has shared how the fivefold servant leaders have helped him to grow to that spiritual stage and how they are equipping him for his work of the ministry. Do enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and we will be back next week to continue sharing on the fivefold governmental leadership team.
Gotta grow up, gotta get up to spiritual maturity. Cannot linger, no stick figure, that is my priority. Gotta listen to the ones with the high authority. It's the fivefold, yeah, the fivefold to get me where I need to be.